The laugh comes out of nowhere, high, breathless, like something slipping through a cracked door. It isn't part of the house, and yet the farmhouse camera catches it, echoing across an empty kitchen. That small, impossible sound is our first promise. These are moments recorded by ordinary people in ordinary places. Watch closely. Decide for yourself. Tonight we bring you a string of home cameras, doorbells, shaky phone footage, and overnight security clips. Captures that show pale shapes, sudden movement, and objects behaving as if touched by an unseen hand. They were all recorded by residents, workers, and people who woke the next morning with the same question: what just happened? If you love unexplained footage like this, hit subscribe. There's more on the way. The first set comes from an 1840 farmhouse upstate. The homeowner, Tasha, moved in with plans to renovate. The house had history, old wallpaper, a sagging porch, a kitchen that still smelled faintly of wood smoke. But nothing in the listing warned her of what began to happen once the couple spent their first month alone in it. At first it was small, a frame down, a cupboard jar out of place. Then it escalated to a repetition that made no sense. 2 thick cookbooks landing on the kitchen floor each morning, perfectly stacked, as if an invisible hand nudged them out from the shelf. Tasha's husband shrugged. He called it gravity, sloppy shelving, a prank. He was skeptical enough that she set up a small camera while they slept, just to prove a point. The footage is shaky at first. Home security at night tends to wash ordinary shapes into gray. At 3:07 a.m., the camera shows a slow shift in the dim light. A shadow crosses the counter in a way that doesn't match the porch light. There's a faint, wet chuckle in the audio. No voice distinct enough to name, but the sound lingers like breath. Then the 2 cookbooks slide from the shelf and thud onto the floor, making a sharp sound that wakes no one. The next morning, Tasha finds the books where the camera showed them fall. The husband watches the clip and tightens his shoulders. His skepticism doesn't dissolve, but his jaw goes still. Later that week, a doorbell camera, mounted on the same farmhouse, records an event that is harder to deny as an optical quirk. The clip begins with the familiar chill of static and road noise. A shadow detaches itself from the porch wall and moves deliberately toward a worn armchair on the entryway landing. It seems to sit. There are no footsteps, no recorded creak of wood, and after a long beat, the shape spreads thin and simply is no longer there. Tasha says she felt watched that night, even before she checked the recordings. When she tells this, her voice is small. She says she heard a presence, then silence, then the lock click, though no one was outside. We don't have proof of a person on that footage, only the impression of an occupant where none should be. The family dog, more sensitive to our world than we sometimes give credit for, is a living gauge in this house. Several clips show the dog alerting long before anything visible happens. A sudden vertigo of stillness, low growls in the hallway, insistence at a closed door. Pets reacting is not proof. It is evidence of perception, something that humans didn't anticipate and didn't recognize. Watch the way the dog's ears lift in the middle of a quiet frame, as if tuning to a frequency the camera misses. The clips put forward the same pattern again and again. Small, repeated disturbances. Domestic life becoming the backdrop for an intrusion that escapes the ordinary explanations. We move now to a different neighborhood, a different language, and a very different kind of footage. The next clip comes from a Spanish-speaking viewer who wakes at 2:33 a.m., claiming someone, or something, is at his front door. The audio is raw. The camera phone whispers in Spanish, the speakers breathing sharp. He speaks directly into the camera with the kind of urgency you get when you know you're not being paranoid, but feel absurd for being afraid. Translation caption. It's 2:33 a.m. and someone's at the door. We're terrified. That's the translation you see scrolling across the bottom, while the original voice remains unchanged, preserving the panic. On the recording, heavy, Methodical banging starts. 3 knocks in quick succession, then a pause, then a new series that sounds impatient. The TV in the living room flickers and warps, a black smear racing across the screen for a split second, with no corresponding power surge recorded on the home monitor. Neighbors say the previous tenants left suddenly, but that detail is indefinido in this upload. Some commenters claim it, others deny it. The footage itself gives us knocks with no visible shadow outside the window, and a whisper on the audio that could be wind or could be a voice. The homeowner pleads into his phone, "Who is there?" He gets no answer, but the knocks continue until dawn, then stop as mysteriously as they began.
There's a pattern across these early segments, the vulnerability of the domestic, the way ordinary thresholds, doorways, pages of a cookbook become an interface for questions we don't have protocols for. These are spaces we expect to control, and yet the camera regularly undermines that assumption.
Our next story centers on Elos, who traveled to visit his father's grave and later returned to his apartment carrying advice and a candle gifted by an online follower. Elos says he wanted to honor a memory and perhaps try to listen. Viewers online suggested lighting a blessed candle. He complied with an act of grief that doubled as a performative ritual. The footage begins with him in the cemetery, looking small among the stones, then cuts to his apartment at night. There is a simple warning we must repeat when presenting footage like this. We do not recommend attempting rituals or experiments. We will show what was recorded, but not how to replicate it. After the candle was lit, the activity in Elos's home intensifies. The odd effects start subtle. A vase pushed an inch along a mantel, a picture frame askew. Then the apartment's cameras catch more aggressive motions, blankets ripped off a bed as if by one strong hand, whispering that creeps along the edge of the audio track and resolves into syllables the viewer only half hears. The lights cut out and come back on without any logged power fluctuation. At one point, the phone's motion sensor registers movement in a corridor when no one is recorded moving there. Elos talks to the camera with a voice that tries to be brave. Translation caption when he prays, "Please, just show me a sign that you're okay." The camera picks up the whisper that answers, or resembles an answer. It's impossible to tell if it's the wind, an appliance, or something else. What we can say is that after the candle incident, the pattern of disturbances grows more erratic and more frequent. There's a recurring motif throughout these clips. Attempts to reach out, candles lit, names called, sometimes seem to coincide with an increase in activity. That raises the question of consequence and whether interaction invites change. We will not claim causation. We will only note correlation, recorded on camera and reported by the witnesses. Harry McClary's footage is an explicit example of an experiment gone sideways. He decided to use a spirit board with friends, camera rolling, the group joking at first, the typical bravado people put on for cameras. The board session itself looks small and childish in the clip, fingers hovering, a board's planchette slipping. But the unsettled tone comes after the session, as if a door was left cracked open. In the days that follow the board session, household disturbances escalate. Harry posts short clips. The family dog barking at a corner where no one stands, the basement door slamming without anyone on camera entering or exiting, a lamp shattering into glass when no wind or impact was recorded. One security camera in the basement captures a crouching silhouette at the edge of frame, low, compact, and then, within a second, the figure darts across the camera's range and disappears into darkness. A later clip shows the same crouching outline caught in the act of moving toward the stairs. The clip's audio registers a metallic clank and a thud like something hitting a wall. Neighbors say they heard strange noises that week. Police were called at one point but found no intruder. Harry arranges a house cleansing at one point and posts short segments where the disturbances briefly pause and then return. That inconsistency is why these clips chill. They challenge the idea that a single intervention fixes something the camera has recorded. We switch now into a series of rapid, pointed clips. A night shift worker returning home, a convenience store employee who records alone nights, and a pair of new apartment tenants documenting their first week in a building. These are shorter uploads, but they stack like building blocks of escalation. The night shift worker's phone video starts with exhaustion, dark circles, the tired laugh of someone who has seen too many empty aisles. He unlocks the door and drops his bag. The lights flicker. A cabinet door slowly inches open, the latch clicking in a way the worker didn't touch. On an angle, the bathroom mirror shows a shadow pass behind him, not visible to his eyes when he turns. Later that week, the same tenant places a camera on the dresser and captures a brief sequence. A dark corner resolves into a form that peeks around the doorway, then recedes. The audio, captured at pitch, records a breath and a single whispered "leave" that is too close to the microphone to be explained away by distant chatter. The worker insists on camera that he locked the door. Police checked the building and found no forced entry. The footage gives us a phrase and no author. The convenience store clip is typical of late-night workers who keep cameras running because every car is a threat at 2 a.m. The clip is grainy, overhead lights buzzing. Shelves are seen from a high corner camera. For most of the night, it shows the expected: empty aisles, a slow pedestrian who buys soda. Then a section of shelves trembles as if a hand passed behind them, collapsing a stack of price tags and sending products raining down. The camera doesn't catch anyone passing because an aisle camera is blinded by an overhang. Only the falling items attest to motion. The clerk's after-upload commentary sounds shaken. He says he ran the footage frame by frame and saw nothing but the aftermath at full speed. New apartment tenants uploaded a series. Doors closing despite locks engaged. Footsteps in empty hallways. A pale face seen at the end of a corridor that vanishes when lights go on. In one clip, a tenant records from bed as the bedroom door opens by itself. The camera's night vision shows a pale, thin shape pause in the doorway and then melt into the wallpaper. These images are brief, like glances, and they rely on timing and camera angle to make the viewer's heart race. Across all these clips, the devices differ. Doorbell cams, static security cameras, smartphones, but the logic is similar. Cameras often capture what we do not see, or they capture it in a new way that invites doubt and debate. In some uploads, viewers come forward with plausible everyday explanations: drafts, poor shelf construction, camera artifacts, reflections. We mention those possibilities because balance matters. But footage remains ambiguous when nothing in the environment accounts for the recorded event. That ambiguity is the engine of the fear. Cameras are neutral witnesses, but their testimony can be frustratingly incomplete. We now slow down and examine two of the most unsettling captures in closer detail. First, the farmhouse doorbell shadow that sat and vanished. When we expand the frame, lock eyes on the porch chair and the angle of dusk, you notice a lack of sound that should be there. If a person had sat, the porch boards would creak. If someone had advanced to that spot, there would be footfalls on gravel. The audio track shows no such data. Instead, there is a faint interference, a high electronic whine that plays across several frames. That whine appears in the footage of other witnesses too, in different neighborhoods. Is it a camera artifact, a local transmitter, or part of the event itself? We can't say. What we can do is point out these cross-clip echoes, because repeated elements invite curiosity even as they defy certainty. The second clip for slow analysis is the crouching figure in Harry McClary's basement. Frame by frame, the outline is low and compact, moving with a speed that makes its limbs blur. There is no clear face nor clear clothing. The camera's angle misses the right side of the room, a blind spot that the figure uses. When we freeze the frame, the silhouette's contour is wrong for a small child and wrong for a hunched adult. It holds no consistent posture we can comfortably interpret. The shape warps between frames in a way that suggests movement not purely mechanical but almost elastic. The audio picks up a lamp breaking in the next room. The combination, visual oddity and sudden physical breakage, produces the most unnerving effect. The house has recorded an actor who left no corroborating footprint for the police to find. At this point you may be asking, are these fakes? Are they camera glitches? Are they the product of careful editing? Those are reasonable questions. They are also the kinds of questions that drive debate in every comment section and thread where clips like these go viral. Some of the uploads present clear hallmarks of hoax, unnatural camera cuts, perfectly timed sound cues, suspiciously cinematic framing. Others lack those hallmarks and instead feel raw and unpolished, shot on cheap phones with grain and lag. Rawness can increase credibility, but it does not guarantee authenticity. If someone were determined to fabricate evidence, they could use poor video quality to their advantage. Conversely, genuine phenomena might be recorded poorly because the people experiencing them are not trained videographers. What we can do as viewers is catalog patterns. Across these uploads, 3 patterns emerge. Objects move without visible contact, shadowed forms appear and dissolve, and animals react before humans register anything. Those 3 patterns repeat so often they become the spine of the compilation. They do not, however, answer the why. They only show the what. There is another theme that winds through these stories: community response on social media. Each uploader faced a cascade of comments: immediate believers who urged prayer and ritual, skeptics who offered mundane explanations, experts, some with credentials, many without, who weighed in with theories about acoustic resonance, electromagnetic interference, or simple pranksters. When viewers suggested a devotional candle or an old household cleansing, some made the attempt. In a few cases, those attempts coincided with a lull. In others, the disturbances returned stronger. The camera does not offer moral lessons about humility, only data that can be read in different ways. We must also respect the people behind the videos. Many speak with genuine fear. Humor would be cruel. Their fear is not part of a story beat. It is the reason they recorded the footage in the first place. Repeating their sensation in our narration is not exploitation, so long as we do so without ridicule, and without inventing details to inflame the narrative. Some viewers offered to help. Some advised professional consultation. A few urged viewers to call authorities if they feel unsafe. Those practical suggestions are appropriate. What we cannot do is instruct viewers on how to summon or provoke the unknown. That would be irresponsible. As our narrative tightens toward the climax, we show a montage, a door that closes twice despite being propped open, a kitchen camera that records a pot sliding from its hook as if nudged, a pale face at the end of a dark corridor that disappears when the tenants look for it. The montage is structured to escalate. Tiny incidents lead to larger incursions. The final clip in that sequence is a night shift worker who woke to the sound of pounding at the bedroom door. The camera, left on a dresser, catches only the shadow at the lower corner of the door, then a rapid rattle, as if something fists against wood. The audio registers a whisper that imitates the worker's voice, saying his name. That is the moment when the footage stops simply being strange and starts feeling intimate in a way that unsettles viewers. Mimicry implies attention, an intelligence directed at a specific person. Our closing analysis returns to balance. With the evidence we have, we cannot offer a definitive cause. We can point to possible natural explanations in some cases: drafts, unsecured shelving, reflections, camera glitching. But in other clips, those explanations do not fully account for what is recorded. We present the footage not to make claim, but to ask questions. Why do dogs respond faster than people? Why do repeated small incidents cluster around certain actions, like a candle lit or a board session used? Why do shadows sometimes sit in chairs with no one recorded entering the room? Cameras do what they always have done. They refract our assumptions back at us. They give us more data to argue over, and they make problems more public. So what do you believe? Which clip convinced you more toward authenticity, and which left you leaning skeptical? Tell us below. Which incident did you find hardest to explain and why? Share your own experiences too, if you've recorded something you can't account for. This community is full of people who will listen, argue, and sometimes help with cautious advice. We close with one final clip, a brief sting meant to linger in your ears. It's a simple audio loop from the farmhouse, the same small laugh that opened our episode, stretched thin and layered over itself, so it circles the silence. The laugh sits for a second and then fades into the night, leaving only the hum of a camera and the sense of a room that is not quite empty. These were recordings from people who went to bed in the world they knew and woke to footage that reframed it. We don't declare proof, and we won't pretend to have answers that the cameras did not capture. We offer what was recorded, faithfully, and we leave the judgment to you. Which of these moments chills you most? Which one do you see as explainable? Comment down below with your theory and any experiences you've had. If this unsettled you, share it with someone who likes mysteries. We'll be back with more caught-on-camera phenomena. Until then, keep your cameras on and your eyes open.